Hare Krishna. We welcome you to Gita Diploma course. It's our third day in the series, and we are going to start second chapter of Bhagavad Gita today. Before we dive in our session, let's begin by chanting the prayers. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militangena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I welcome each one of you to this session. Thank you so much for joining us live. It's our third day. We started this journey on Friday, the journey of understanding Bhagavad Gita, the journey of applying Bhagavad Gita, and the journey of living Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is there on the battlefield of Kurukshetra along with his very good friend and devotee Arjuna. And Arjuna, in chapter 1, we came to know yesterday, expresses many reasons why he doesn't want to fight this most important battle of his life. If you remember, chapter 1 started with the question of Dhritarashtra, and then Sanjaya, in answer to that question, narrated what his sons and the sons of Pandu did do on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Making it short, basically, Arjuna, when he was put right in front of his respectable teachers, grandfather Bhishma, he became so emotional. And he thought, I cannot fight them. They should be worshipped, they should be respected. So this is not good. And then he gave many good reasons why he thought that fighting is not a good option. At the end, Arjuna just sits down on the chariot. He keeps his bow and arrow aside and is crying. That's where chapter 1 ended. And from there, then Sanjaya takes over and begins to narrate the second chapter, which begins in this manner. Let's look at the situation where we left you yesterday. So when Sanjaya spoke this verse that Arjuna is completely demotivated, he said Arjuna is sitting on the chariot. At that time, what do you think would be the reaction of Dhritarashtra by hearing the news that Arjuna has decided to not fight or is totally against fighting? What would be the expression of Dhritarashtra? Would he be happy or would he be sad? That's our first question for you today to answer. So please try to answer this question. What was Dhritarashtra thinking when Sanjaya told him that Arjuna is completely demotivated now? All right, thank you so much. Our audience is, as always, very, very enthusiastic to answer these questions. He was very happy. Yeah, he was delighted because that's what he wanted. That's what he was hoping for, that Pandavas should not fight. Now, if Arjuna decides not to fight, what will be the rest of Pandavas doing? Because Arjuna was their main key player. So Dhritarashtra was very happy. His hope was increasing that this battle will not happen and Duryodhana would emerge the king of the whole planet Earth. But Sanjaya, he's going to shatter this false hope of Dhritarashtra very soon. And that's how Sanjaya begins the second chapter by speaking this verse. Now this chapter of 2 is the second longest chapter, and we are going to go really fast because we have to cover 72 verses. So please be very attentive. Sanjaya already addressed Dhritarashtra's emotion of fear in the first chapter. Also, doubt was addressed in first chapter. Now he's going to address the third feeling or emotion that he was going through, which was false hope. So Sanjaya says, Sanjaya uvacha tang tatha kripaya vishtam ashrupurna kulekshanam vishidantam idam vakyam uvacha Madhusudanaha. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, Krishna, spoke the following words. Sanjaya used a very specific name of Lord Krishna here, Madhusudana. As soon as Sanjaya said this name, Dhritarashtra's smile went away because Dhritarashtra knew that Krishna is a game changer. He was very expert at everything he does. He's a very good speaker, and he can change anyone's mind. He can do the impossible possible. So Sanjay is saying that this Arjuna, who is the best warrior of all times, he is crying, standing on the battlefield. Now imagine a Kshatriya never cries, he makes his enemies cry. But a Kshatriya like Arjuna is crying, which means he is so sad at this moment. And at that time, when Dhritarashtra was happy, Sanjay said, don't be so happy. Krishna is there with Arjuna. He'll change Arjuna's mind. In the second verse, then he begins to tell what Krishna spoke to Arjuna. Now the second verse, where first time you see Krishna speaking in the whole Bhagavad Gita, Sri Vyasadeva, the author, he says, Sri Bhagavana Uvacha. Like when Sanjay is talking, he says Sanjay Uvacha. When Dhritarashtra is talking, he says Dhritarashtra Uvacha. But when now Krishna is going to speak, he doesn't say Krishna Uvacha, he says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Why so? Why throughout the Bhagavad Gita he uses Sri Bhagavan and not Krishna or Sri Krishna? What does Vyasadeva want to tell us? I hope you know the answer to this question. What is it trying to tell by saying Sri Krishna, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha? That Krishna is real Supreme Bhagavan? Yes, true. What else? What else? Krishna is God? Yes, very true. Thank you. There's something else also. He wants to convey a message. He's the creator. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Very true. Krishna has all six opulences. Yes. Absolute truth. Krishna and Bhagavan are the same. Okay, fine. Let's see what answer I was looking for. Actually, he wants to tell people, yes, please bring it on screen, that Krishna is not an ordinary human being or not an ordinary person. We need to understand that Krishna is the divine Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Vyasadeva wants to tell the readers that don't judge or don't doubt Krishna's words or Krishna's activities because he is Bhagavan himself. Keep that faith and then try to understand the Bhagavad Gita in that manner. Now, the word Bhagavan, like one of you already mentioned, means one who has bhaga or opulences in full. This verse is given by Parashar Muni, who is the father of Sri Vyasadeva, and he has given the definition to Bhagavan in this verse. He says, Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashasha shriyaha jnana vairagyayoshchaiva shannam bhaga itingana. That the person who is called Bhagavan, he has six opulences incomplete. And what are those six opulences? First is wealth, second is strength, third is fame, fourth is beauty, fifth is knowledge, and sixth is renunciation. All of these opulences, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan Krishna, has in full, complete. That's the definition of Bhagavan. And that's what Vyasadeva wants to tell us about Sri Krishna. So further, then Sanjaya says, the response of Lord Sri Krishna was, Kutastva kashmalam idam vishame samupastitam. He tells Arjuna, Arjuna, is this the correct place and time to talk like this? I mean, come on, don't joke. This is not the time to joke or have fun. Here now, when millions of soldiers have gathered to fight, you are telling you will not fight? Ah, come on, Arjuna. You're not behaving like a civilized man. And what will people say? People will not just say that you are a coward, people will also say bad things about me. They will make fun of me. They will say, Krishna had to choose to become the chariot driver of such a coward who decided to not fight in such an important battle. Come on, Arjuna, don't do that. You are my relative, you are my friend. That's why I'm telling you. This will bring you so much of infamy, and this will bring me also so much of infamy. So don't be coward. Arjuna says, Krishna, I'm not being coward. It's not my cowardice. Actually, it's my compassion. I, I'm feeling compassion for all of these people. And then Krishna says, it's not compassion, Arjuna. I call it weakness of heart. Come on, stand up and fight. Don't be like a eunuch. Eunuch means half man, half woman. Don't be like that. Be a Kshatriya. Be courageous. Be brave. Stand up and fight. So at that time, Arjuna says, okay, now you want to tell me a coward? Fine, that's okay. Let me remain a coward, but I cannot fight with Bhishma Pitama and Dronacharya because they are my teachers. So he says, Katham Bhishma Maham Sanke Dronam Cha Madhusudana. I should respect them. Instead of shooting arrows at them, I should be showering flowers at them because they are my respectable seniors and superiors. I cannot fight with them. Even he says to Krishna, will you ever fight with your own grandfather, O Krishna? Will you ever fight with your own teacher, O Krishna? No, so why are you asking me to do that? So at that moment, Lord Krishna says, but Arjuna, have they not deviated from their duty as a teacher? Are they not taking side of the wrong person? And then Arjuna says, whatever they do, that's their problem. But I'm not going to judge them and I'm not going to fight against them. Better I live my life as a beggar than fight. So Krishna tried to convince Arjuna that if your teacher or guru is not on the right path, then you can reject that teacher or you can keep distance from that teacher. But here Arjuna is saying, even if they have gone on a wrong path, I should still respect them because they taught me, they cared for me, they made me who I am. So I cannot fight with them. Now, here is an important lesson to learn from Arjuna. Arjuna is demonstrating this very good quality of gratitude. We should always be grateful to those who have done us a favor. We should always remember, like there is a saying, that always remember what good things people have done to you, and always forget what bad things people have done to you. And you should always remember what bad things you have done to people, and you should always forget what good things you have done to people. So Arjuna is exhibiting that quality. He is so grateful. And then he says, I am not able to decide what I should be doing in this situation. That is Arjuna's fifth reason to not fight. Na chai tadvidma kataranno gariyo. So the fifth reason is indecision. I am not able to decide, should I fight or should I not fight? There is a saying in Bengali that if you cannot decide what to do, better don't do in some situations. And in some situations, better you do. So Arjuna is saying, I am not able to make any clear decision of mine here. If I fight, then there can be two outcomes. One, I win, but then all my relatives die. That's not good. Or I lose, which means I die. That is also not acceptable. And the next is, I should not fight. But being a Kshatriya, that is also very difficult for me. I cannot live as a beggar. That's also very difficult. So I'm not able to decide. In this situation now, what does Arjuna do? Like yesterday, someone was asking, what can we learn from Arjuna? In this situation, Arjuna decides to surrender to Krishna, accept Krishna as his teacher, as his guide. He wants to hand over the reins of his life into the hands of Krishna. That don't just drive my chariot, but also drive my life, give it a direction. So he surrenders to Krishna, and this is one of the most important verses of Bhagavad Gita. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava prichhami tam dharma samudha cheta yat shreyasyan nishchitam bruhitan me shishyaste shadi mam tam prapannam. Arjuna says, I am becoming your disciple, your student, a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me what I should be doing. I am not able to decide for myself, so you decide for me. You tell me what is best for me. At that time, Krishna jokingly tells to Arjuna, go to someone else. There are so many superiors whom you know, and they are your gurus. Go to your guru who is Dhaumya Rishi. Go to Vyasadeva. Why are you coming to me? I'm your friend. And Arjuna says, well, at this moment, you only are there who can help me. So I take shelter of you. Kindly help me. I don't want to go to anyone else. And then Arjuna gives his final conclusive verdict of his opinion whether they should fight or not. And he says, O Govinda, I shall not fight. He has made up his mind. He's not going to fight. And then he kept quiet. Now he's waiting for Krishna to instruct him and show him the way. At that moment, Lord Krishna starts speaking actually the instructions of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. So that was the first section of this chapter, Arjuna's fifth reason to not fight, and he surrenders. And now what will Lord Krishna do? We are going to see from verse number 11. The first verse spoken by Lord Krishna as an instruction to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita is Asochayananvasochastam pragyavadangsha bhashase. Immediately Krishna chastises Arjuna. Is this how learned people behave? He tells Arjuna, you give so many good reasons to not fight. You are speaking like a pandit, very learned man. But now look at yourself, you are crying. How can someone who is in knowledge be crying like you? That means you are not learned. You just know how to talk nicely. So he chastised Arjuna. Now here is a question for all of you. If someone is in a situation like that of Arjuna, why would Krishna, the most merciful Supreme Lord, the most kind teacher, chastise him? What is Lord trying to do? Why is he speaking so strongly? Arjuna has already said, I am a fool. I want to learn from you. I am surrendered unto you. Please guide me. But still Krishna is chastising him, is kind of, reprimanding him. What does Lord Krishna want to do in this situation to Arjuna? What is he trying to do? Let's see what's the answer to this question. Here, Krishna is trying to address something on psychological level to Arjuna, to bring him back to the right path, to shake him out of his lamentation, to stimulate him for his duty. Okay, let's wait for some more answers to come. To stimulate, to invoke him a little bit out of shame. Yes, correct. To test him, his devotion. Chastise him for not lamenting unnecessarily. To make Arjuna serious, to make him strong, to get his attention. Okay. To know the real cause. All right. Thanks for trying. So actually the answer is quite similar to what you have been trying to convey. He wanted to shake Arjuna out of his lamentation. When someone is too much sad, morose, in low spirits, even if you speak knowledge to that person will not understand. So you need to shake him out of that state of lamentation. And to do that, Krishna spoke some strong words to Arjuna, like kind of waking up. Okay, now listen to me. Don't just dive deep into into your own thoughts. Come out of it and listen to me. So that's how Krishna tries to bring Arjuna's mind to his words. And then he speaks the knowledge of soul, Atma Gyan. Who is Arjuna? What is his eternal identity? So Lord Krishna, first of all, he tells Arjuna, he says, you see, myself And you and all the kings who have assembled on this battlefield, they have always existed in the past, they're existing in the present, and they will continue to exist in the future. So first thing he teaches is that we all are eternal spirit souls who do not die. What dies or what changes is just the external body. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam chara. He gives a very beautiful analogy. He says, just like a person moves from the body of a baby to the body of a boy, then to the body of a young man or a young girl, then to the body of an old person. Similarly, at a moment called death, the living entity moves to a new body. And this goes on and on and on and on and on. But the living entity, the spirit soul, is eternal. So he's telling Arjuna, the body will change. That's natural. You cannot stop that from happening. Now your teachers and grandfather have become old, so they will die. You can't stop it. So don't worry about it, Arjuna. And then Arjuna says, well, I also know that they are going to die, but I am attached to their body. I love them. So I cannot see them dying, and what to speak of me killing them? That's not possible. So Lord Krishna then tells, though you love them, still Arjuna, you should know that these changes happen naturally and you should learn to tolerate them. So he gives an example. He says, just like after the summer season comes the winter season, after the winter season comes the summer season, and this goes on in a cycle. Likewise, there are moments of happiness, and after that there are moments of distress, and then again come the moments of happiness, and then again come the moments of distress. So don't be too much disturbed by these changes. Understand them to be temporary and continue to do your duty, because that's more important. So learn to tolerate such changes in life. And Arjuna says, why should I tolerate? So then Lord Krishna says, if you tolerate, then that tolerance will allow you to remain dutiful in all situations. Now, this is so important for us to learn in a practical life. If we don't learn this quality of tolerance, we cannot be dutiful. And if we are not dutiful, then Lord Krishna says the knowledge of Atma, or also known as the knowledge of self-realization, cannot awaken into our heart. That knowledge only awakens into our heart when we are dutiful. And then that knowledge will lead to liberation, mukti, freedom from the problems that we have in our life surrounding us. So that's what Krishna is suggesting to Arjuna. Here is a quick lesson for each one of us. Let's see what that lesson is. The ability to tolerate provocative situations is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of greatness. Yes, I repeat this lesson, very important for people of modern times. The ability to tolerate provocative situations is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of greatness. The greater a person is, the greater the tolerance that person has. And that's what Lord Krishna is trying to teach Arjuna. And then quickly Lord Krishna gives an explanation on the difference between the body and the soul. So I request you, my dear audience, to kindly help me with this question. What are the differences between Atma and Sharir, or soul and body? Lots of answers for this question are possible. You can start sending your answers now. What are the differences? Krishna covers this subject in the verses 15 to 26. We are not going to discuss each of those verses. We are just doing a summarized study of them. So let me hear from you. Yes, the body is external and the soul is eternal. The body will die, the soul will not. Very good. The soul is imperishable, the body is perishable. Very nice. Yes. What else? Any other difference? Unchangeable. Soul is unchangeable. Body is changeable. Yes. Anything else? The soul is invisible. The body is visible. Correct? Very good. Anything else? Please tell me the differences which others have not spoken. The soul cannot be destroyed, the body can be. The soul has no birth and no death, the body has. Yes. The soul is Satchidananda, very good. The body is not. Yes, very true. The soul is our true identity, correct. The body is a false identity. Very nice. Body is physical, soul is spiritual. Yes. The soul is part of the Supreme Lord, correct. The soul is sukshma, subtle. Body is gross. Very good. All right. Thank you so much. Many points. So these are the different points that you can see in the table. The soul is imperishable. The body is perishable, unborn, takes birth, eternal, temporary, doesn't die, dies, invisible, visible, unchangeable, goes through change. Many other points. Now, this analysis between the soul and the body, the differences, is technically called Sankhya. And that's why this chapter is also sometimes called as Sankhya Yoga, understanding the difference between body and soul. This is where real spirituality begins. Now, Arjuna then says, do you mean to say, Krishna, that all the different kinds of weapons I have, they cannot destroy the soul? Can the soul not be cut into pieces? Can it not be burnt by fire? Can it not be moistened by water? Can it not be dried up by the wind? Now, what do you say? What will Lord Krishna answer? Can the soul be cut into pieces? Can the soul be burned by fire? Yes or no? It's a very simple question. You just have to say yes or no. No. Yeah, very good. Thank you. The soul cannot be cut into pieces or burned or moistened or withered. Not possible. That's only possible for the body. And then finally, Lord Krishna says, Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityor dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmada pariharyerthe na tvam sochitum arhasi. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Arjuna, anyone who is born is going to die. Anyone who is dying will take birth again. So why lament? Do your duty. That's all. This is a law which will always function. You can't stop it. You can't stop Bhishma from dying. You can't stop Dronacharya from dying. So therefore, understanding that Dehi Nityam Avadhyoyam, that the eternal soul never dies, just fight, do your duty. So in this way, Lord Krishna answered the first doubt of Arjuna. Now, my dear devotees, let me ask you these questions to check your memory. Yesterday we discussed. Arjuna gave 4 reasons to not fight in the session we had yesterday. What was the first reason to not fight? You remember? What was Arjuna's first reason to not fight? Waiting for you. Compassion. Thank you. Very nice. Wonderful. So now Krishna is telling the soul can never be killed. That's why don't lament. You are feeling compassionate for what? The body will die. And if you are feeling compassionate for the soul will never die. So therefore, you should not worry. You should fight. So he is addressing Arjuna's first reason, material compassion. And then this knowledge, actually, Atma Gyan, which we just discussed now, it is very comforting for the living entity to know that I am not this body, I am spirit, soul. This knowledge, it develops a certain kind of detachment from material life. It's like finding the lost me. When we come to know I am spirit, soul, I am not this body. Though that was the second section of this second chapter. Fight, O Arjuna, no death for the soul. A quick lesson here. First, set your identity correctly, because that decides how we think, how we desire, how we act, and how we experience in this world. These lessons which I am sharing with all of you, please try to make notes of them because they are very helpful. They are very deep also. First, set your identity correctly because that decides how we think, how we desire, how we act, and how we experience in this world. That will be based on how do we identify ourselves, what do we think who we are. And now sometimes when people tell me how is the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita practical, it is, I mean, the knowledge of soul, how it can help me in my day-to-day life. So then I tell them this story which is based on what we discussed now in Bhagavad Gita about your identity, who you are, how you identify yourself. So this story is one of my favorite stories, and whenever I tell this story, everyone is amazed by the beautiful lesson that this story has. So this story is about a boy who used to live in Japan. His father was a Japanese farmer. He did not have a mother, so he was living with his father, and he was around age 10 to 11. His father would be busy every day going to the farms, cultivating crops, harvesting them, selling them in the market, taking care of himself, taking care of the son. And the son, he was not studying, he was not going to any school. He would just spend his whole day all by himself, either strolling in the in the village or going to the farm, sitting there all by himself near a lake, like that. He did not have any friends, he did not play any sports, he did not do anything. So his father understood that my son is not so happy. He's dissatisfied with his life. Perhaps he's also thinking that he's not of any use. His son would every day go and sit on top of a small rock below a tree, and he would watch the butterflies flying here and there or the insects making noise, and he would just sit there and think and think and think. So one day his father thought, let me teach him a good lesson now. He thinks that his life is of no use. He has no purpose in life. What is he going to do in future? So his father called him up and said, my dear boy, I want to give you a task. And the boy said, okay, father. He said, every day you go in the farm and you sit on a rock, on a stone, you bring that stone home. So the boy goes to the farm, comes back with that stone, and the father then tells, now tomorrow you go to the market and then you spread a cloth sheet on the ground, sit on it, and keep the stone in front of you. If any person comes there interested in buying that stone and asks you for the price of the stone, then instead of saying anything, you just show that person two fingers like this. And the boy said, okay. The boy asked, do I need to sell it? The father said, no, no, you don't need to sell it. You just do this much and come back. Report me what they say. The boy goes to the market next day. He carries this stone with him, goes and sits there just like the way his father explained to him. And then a very rich lady riding in a Mercedes car comes and stops there. She gets down out of the car. Her eyes fell on the stone and she's so happy. She's like, oh my God, I found it. As if she was just looking for it. So she comes to that boy and says, you know what? Recently I purchased a bungalow and it has a big garden in the backyard. And my garden is so empty. So I'm trying to now make it beautiful by adding so many different things there. I have a small pond. I have many I have many flower plants. But this stone also, if it goes into my garden, it will add to the beauty of my garden. Will you sell this stone to me? And the boy says, okay. So she says, how much do you sell it for? His father had told him not to tell any price, just show two fingers. So he said, he didn't say, he just showed like this. And the lady said, okay, you mean $200? And the boy, what? She said, $200? It's okay, I can buy it for $200. And the boy said, well, I'll get back to you. He went back home And then he told his father, Father, a lady came, she got on from Mercedes and she was ready to pay $200 for this stone. I just can't imagine how can someone pay such a big amount for this stone on which I would just sit every day and do nothing. And the father said, okay, boy, don't worry. Now tomorrow you go to a different place. And the boy said, where now? So he said, go to a museum. He gave him an address. Go to this particular street, go to this museum, and you just stand in front of that museum. The boy said, okay, father. So he goes there. The security comes out, starts shouting at the boy, hey, you dirty boy coming from the village, don't spoil the beauty of the place here. Go, get lost. What are you doing here? It's no business you have here. Go away. And the boy then, he says, you know what? I have something for your master. And this guy said, what? You have something for my master? He said, yes. So then the master comes out. And then when he comes out, his eyes fell upon that stone. And he thinks, this stone seems to be very old. My museum has many antique pieces. So why can't I keep this stone also? So he calls that boy inside and says, look, boy, this museum is the best museum in the city. We have things which are thousands of years old. And this stone also is not so new. It's very old. So will you sell this stone to me? I'll give you money, cash, right away. How much? And the boy shows two fingers. So the man says, $2,000. Okay, I give it to you now. And the boy, what did you say, sir? $2,000. I pay you now. The boy immediately goes back home and said, Father, today that man was ready to give me $2,000 for this stone. The father says, okay, my son, last, tomorrow you go to a third place. The boy said, now which place? He said, go to a jeweler shop. Right away, you should go to the jeweler and show this stone to him. And the boy says, okay, I'll do that. So he goes to the jeweler shop and then he brings out the stone and puts it in front of the jeweler and says, are you interested in buying this? When the jeweler sees that stone, he understands this is a very precious stone. And he's already imagining, I can cut into the small pieces, make rings out of it, make pendants out of it, make bracelets out of it, and I can make millions of rupees out of it or millions of dollars out of it. So then he tells the boy, how much you sell it for? And the boy shows two fingers. So he said, okay, I give you $2 million for this stone. And you can just imagine what happened to that boy. He could not contain his excitement and his happiness and his amazement. He ran back. He was almost speechless. He's like, Father, $2 million for this stone. He was crying. I could not even imagine in the wildest of my dreams that this stone was so valuable. Then the father made that boy sit next to him and said, my dear son, did you learn the lesson that I wanted to teach you? And the son said, what is that, my dear father? And said, every day you are thinking you are valueless. You have nothing to do in life. You have no purpose. But then when you went out with this stone, for which you also thought the same, that this stone has no value, and you met people, someone told you this stone values only $200. Someone else told you it values $2,000. But when you met the person who actually knows its value, that person was ready to give you $2 million for just this stone. Similarly, you are also very valuable and you should know your value. Now, what lesson we want to take away from this story is that when we meet different people in this world, they give us different identities. You are like this, you are like that, you are beautiful, you are ugly, you are nice, you are not so nice, you are intelligent, you are a fool. They impose those identities upon us, and that's just what we start thinking about ourselves. But actually, our real identity is not known to them. Our real identity is known to Lord Krishna. And that's what Lord Krishna is revealing in this chapter. He's telling to Arjuna, Arjuna, you are not this body. That's what people will say. But I am telling you, you are something much, much, much more valuable than this body. And that is spirit, soul, Atma. Atma is something that does not die. Atma is full of knowledge. Atma is full of happiness, Ananda. And that's what who you are. And that's what who all of us are. So that's why this knowledge given in Bhagavad Gita is so important. If you understand what our true identity is, then just as I said in the lesson before, our experiences, our desires, our thoughts, everything will be based on that identity. Now let's move forward. I hope you like the story and the lesson. So now the next is Arjuna's remaining questions, and Krishna has to answer them too. So Arjuna's second question was something, and Krishna begins to answer that now. He says, Swadharmam api chavekshya na vikampitum arhasi. So Arjuna told to Krishna, if I fight, I lose. If I don't fight, I lose. But Krishna tells Arjuna, no, 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 your perception is wrong. In my perception, if you fight, you win. If you don't fight, if you fight, you win. Whether you win or you lose, you win. But if you don't fight, you lose. Now, how does Lord Krishna come to that conclusion? Let's see. So Krishna says, Arjuna, you have two choices, either to fight or not fight. Now, if you fight, either you will win. That's very nice. You enjoy the kingdom and be happy. Or if you don't fight, then you die and you go to heaven. And there also you'll enjoy life. So you'll be happy. So it's like a win-win situation if you fight. But if you don't fight, then you'll be considered sinful because of giving up the duty to fight. Second, you will become infamous, and that's going to be very bad for you because you are already so famous. So infamy will be more worse than death for you. And third, people will not say you are a brave person out of compassion, you left the battlefield. They will just say that you ran away out of fear. They will criticize you. So better, Arjuna, you should fight. So Krishna made it win-win situation for Arjuna rather than lose-lose situation that Arjuna was thinking of. He said, if you don't fight, you lose good reputation, you lose the kingdom. But if you fight, then you win. And you win. Whether you win or lose, that's what happens to you. So here we understand a very important lesson again. How to be happy in life. That is hidden in the Bhagavad Gita, the secret to be happy. Lord Krishna is teaching Arjuna that when you do some work, that work gives you some result. Most of the people in this world, they evaluate their happiness by the results that they get from their work. If I can get this result, I'll be happy. If I can get that result, I'll be happy. But Krishna is teaching Arjuna, happiness lies not in the result, but in the prescribed duty, in your work. So that's his answer to second question of Arjuna. Arjuna is saying, if I fight this battle, I'll not be happy. And Krishna is saying, no, if you fight this battle, you will be happy. Because happiness lies not in getting something out of your work, but happiness lies in doing your work as a matter of duty. This is so important for modern times people to understand that happiness is not in what you get out of your work, but actually it is in doing what you're supposed to do in the right consciousness and with the right attitude. That's what make you happy. That's what can make you happy. So that's the answer to the second question of Arjuna, which was in first chapter. And Krishna is saying, do your work as a matter of duty. This will make you happy. Fight. This is your duty. Let's come to the third question now that Arjuna had to ask Krishna. Arjuna is saying, won't such work bind me? Why is Arjuna making such kind of argument here? Because Arjuna knows about a particular law that's not known as the law of karma. I hope all of you also understand this law. What is that? Any action produces a reaction. Any action. Karma gives karma phala, or work gives result. Right? So good karma will give good result and bad karma will give bad result. That's the law of karma. Arjuna is thinking, if I'm going to fight in this battlefield, it will produce karma for me, and that karma will bind me. So, here, a general question for all of you to answer: killing in general, is it a good action or a bad action, or a right action or a wrong action? Bad action. Correct. Wrong. Yes, very true. So Arjuna is thinking, if I kill people, that will bring me so much of bad reaction, and I'll have to suffer for that. That was his third reason to not fight. It is sinful to kill people, and it's more sinful to kill your own family members and relatives. So I don't want to get into this kind of action now, because it's going to be very bad for me. I'll go to hell and suffer there. So then Krishna says something which all of us have to learn from Bhagavad Gita. Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddhaya yudhyasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin. So that's his answer to Arjuna's third question, to not fight, or third doubt or reason to not fight. It will give me sinful reactions, papa karma. And Krishna is saying there is no papa if you fight for the sake of duty and not for the result. If you fight out of hatred, then it will become pap karma or sinful action. But if you fight as a matter of duty, then I have a solution for you. It will not be considered as papa. So this is something which in Gita is repeatedly taught, even in chapter 3, 5, and elsewhere. And we have to understand this from this section, that Gita is not promoting only work. Like most of the people, they think you just work and work and work and work. No need to take any interest in spirituality, no need to study scriptures, spiritual scriptures or books. You just work. That's all is sufficient. And then some people think that you just engage in spiritual activities, assimilate spiritual knowledge, do nothing else. But Bhagavad Gita is teaching that you have to combine these two aspects of life. You work also, and you cultivate spiritual knowledge also. That's called jnana and karma, putting it together. Fight, that's the work, with detachment, that's the knowledge. So you put both of them together. Prescribed work with spiritual knowledge. Now, my dear audience, this is a concept which is repetitively taught in Bhagavad Gita. And when we understand this concept and apply it to our life, then whatever situation we might be, we are a spiritual personality or a spiritual being on the path of spirituality. So Arjuna becomes very interested to know this science from Krishna. So he says, that's very interesting. I would like to know more about this science. How does this science work? That you fight also and you don't get the sinful reaction for fighting. And then Krishna explains this science in detail in the verses 39 to 46. He says, this is called Buddhi Yoga, Arjuna, also known as Nishkama Karma Yoga, the yoga of attitude. What is that? In short, karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So he says, fight. That is your duty and also your right. Arjuna argues, he may argue, so Krishna also says, and remember, the results aren't yours, all right? Arjuna says, what? No results? Then why fight? This is something very common, right? Someone would definitely say so. If I don't get the results, why should I fight? So Krishna says, it's your duty, Arjuna, hold it tight. You must do it just as your duty, not because you want to get something out of it. This is a concept which will take a long time for some of us to sink in our heart and in our consciousness, that we need to do our daily activities in this mindset, that we must do our activities as a matter of duty. It can be anything: going to school, going to college, going for a job, being a husband, being a wife, being a child, being a parent, being anything. It should be done as a matter of duty. Now then Arjuna says, but if you don't work for the results, what will be the inspiration to work? Why should I work then? Like someone tells you, go to the job, but you won't get the salary. Will that person not question? Why then go to the job? Why should I do anything? Why can't I just stay at home and whole day just sleep or take rest? So if someone tells you that you should work in this attitude, how will you get inspiration to continue working in that spirit? Not for the result, just as a matter of duty. Do what you are planning to do, or do what you are supposed to do. What will give you the inspiration to do something like that? That's our question for you. Krishna will definitely answer Arjuna's question, but let's see if we are also able to understand what that answer will be. For Krishna. Okay, thank you. Means one should act for Krishna. That should be the inspiration. Nice. What else? Do a course without certificate. That's an example. All right, thank you. To get experience. What else? Because God wants us to do. Very nice. For Krishna, for the benefit of the people in general, Loka Kalyan. Okay. Duty, for as a matter of duty, for Krishna's will, for Dharma, to live your life. Everything comes from Krishna. We don't own anything, so how can we expect for higher purpose? All right, I appreciate your points. Very nice points. So actually, Krishna tells the answer. He tells to Arjuna, you should derive your inspiration from the understanding that if you fight as a matter of duty, you get freedom from bondage. Which bondage is he talking about? We'll discuss more about that in the chapter 13, 14, etc. of Bhagavad Gita. But Krishna is going to talk about those steps now, which are very important. First, he says, do your work in a dutiful manner and detached manner. That leads to development of knowledge that you are Atma. That leads to knowledge of Paramatma. That leads to surrender of Atma to Paramatma. That leads to freedom from material world, and that leads to liberation, which means you can enter into Vaikuntha. That's why you should fight in that spirit. So then Arjuna understands this and says, okay, that's very nice. But then the concept which you explained sounds a bit difficult to follow in life. So can you give me examples of people who actually lived the life like that? And Krishna will answer that point in chapter 3. But then here Arjuna also asks another question. If I want to find such a person who works like this, who lives his life like this, how will I know that this person is he or she? Does that person have any characteristics or symptoms? So he asked this question. Sthita pragyasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthitadhihi kim prabhasheta kim asita vrajeta kim. Very technical question being asked by Arjuna. He says, does such a person exist, first of all? And such a person is being called as Sthita Pragya. How will I identify such a person? So his questions are decoded here in these 4 lines. His first question was Ka Bhasha. What are the characteristics of such a person? Second, Kim Prabhasheta. How does he speak? Third, Kim Asita. How does he sit? Vrajeta Kim. How does he walk? He's not asking about physically how does that person sit or walk or speak. These questions are more deeper than what they seem to be. So he is basically asking, first of all, when he says, what are his symptoms or characteristics, which Krishna will answer in 2.55. Arjuna is asking basically, in general, that person, What symptoms do you find in that person? How does that person appear to be? His state of mind, his personality. And then Krishna says, everything that person does, he looks for happiness within, inside, not outside. That's the characteristic of that person. Second, how does that person speak? Which means when that person is shouted upon, when that person is made angry because of someone's actions, when that person is insulted, how does that person react in that situation? So Lord Krishna says that person remains undisturbed, neither excited nor morose, completely steady, unchanged, unaffected. And the third question was, how does that person sit? Which means, how does that person withdraw himself or herself in situations of temptations? And Krishna says, withdraws within like a tortoise. You know about the tortoise, right? When there's enemy around, the tortoise goes inside the shell. The hands, the legs, the head, everything goes inside that very hard shell. And even a bomb cannot then kill that tortoise. If there's a bomb blast, the tortoise will remain safe inside that shell. And fourth, Arjuna's question was, how does that person walk? Which means, how does that person act? And Krishna says, that person works with satisfied consciousness, which means that person is always happy. Not happy because he or she is going to get something. He's just happy doing everything he or she does. And that happiness comes from connection with the Supreme Lord. In that consciousness, that person works. Gita will teach us how to develop all these qualities and how to come to this level of consciousness. And then finally, Krishna ends the chapter by telling Arjuna, such a person enters into the kingdom of God, O Arjuna. This is where the second chapter ends. That a person in this consciousness becomes qualified to enter into Krishna's kingdom, also known as Vaikuntha, or Golok Vrindavan, or the spiritual world. So now you can start sending your questions to us. A brief recap. This chapter is called Sankhya Yoga, Yoga of Analysis. It's about what? It's about my identity. It's about your real identity. And it falls in the section about the self, about us. 5 takeaway lessons, quick ones. First, hear with compassion. When Arjuna was speaking to Krishna, Krishna never stopped Arjuna from talking. He let Arjuna pour out his heart. And when Arjuna stopped talking, then Krishna started giving good advice or counseling to Arjuna. This is what we need to learn from this chapter. When people are there approaching you for help and they're speaking up what is there in their heart, we should allow them to speak. Even if they're wrong, they are talking nonsense, foolish, let them speak. Let them vomit out everything what's there inside them, and then you start talking to them, addressing their doubts, problems. So give them a chance to speak their heart to you. Krishna gave all the time to Arjuna to speak out, and then he started giving the answers. Second, what is your identity? Who you think you are, please. That's what is going to decide what experience you'll get in life. The way you define yourself, the way you identify yourself. Do we identify ourselves just as the external body that we have, or do we identify ourselves as eternal spirit soul every single moment? Third, the how of happiness. We all want to be happy in life. That's what everyone lives for. Anything we do, we are doing it for happiness. But how to be happy? Lord Krishna is teaching in Bhagavad Gita. Happiness comes from doing what you're supposed to do in a dutiful manner. That's what will make you happy or keep you happy. Not doing it for a specific result, because you may not always get that result the way you want. It will never be like that. Sometimes the result will be more, sometimes it will be less, but it will not be exactly the way you want it at the time when you want it. No. So better you be happy just by doing that activity itself, not what it will give to you. Fourth, content and intent. Very important lesson again. Bhagavad Gita teaches us what you do should be correct, and why you do it should also be correct, which means what you do is the content of the work. That's important. But why you do is the intent of the work. That's also very, very important. Krishna is telling Arjuna, you are fighting. The content is the act of fighting. But the intention, if it is not to take revenge, not to punish others, not to harm others, not to basically give them pain, but your intention is you want to do this work only as a matter of duty, or you want to do this work to please the Supreme Lord, then that work will give you a different result. What we do is important, but why we do is much more important. Sometimes what we do externally may not look like a good thing to be done, but if the other person understands why we did it, then that person may understand, oh, it was really, really needed to be done that way. So that's why content and intent, know these two things about any single thing that we do. And finally, Arjuna asked Krishna, can you give me explanation about the characteristics of such a person? Now, why Arjuna inquired about characteristics of such a person? Because if you come to know about good qualities and you want to develop those good qualities, you must find out people who have those good qualities and associate with them. Good examples inspire us. When we hear about them, and much more when we meet them, then we are inspired to become like them. So Arjuna is telling, it's a nice concept, but I want to see people living in this world, applying this concept in their life. Then I would like to meet them, associate with them, and learn from them. That's what we also have to learn from Arjuna in this chapter, that if you want to become like something, then find out someone who has those qualities and associate with that person and learn from that person. So that's chapter 2 in brief, at one glance, what this chapter told us. Sanjaya begins by telling about Arjuna's state. Arjuna's indecision and surrender was covered in verses 2 to 10. Then verses 11 to 30 spoke about the difference between soul and body. And Krishna told Arjuna, you must fight. 31 to 37, do your prescribed duty, you must fight. 38 to 53, Buddhi Yoga, Nishkama Karma Yoga, you must fight. And finally, Arjuna asked the question, Sthita Pragya Sakha Bhasha, can you tell me more about such a person? And then Krishna answers that in verses 55 to 72. So now question answer time. Please ask your questions related to this session that we had today. Of course, we covered a big chapter in such a short period of time. Thank you so much for being on with us in the session. Let's see what you have got to ask today. So the first question that's coming today is, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, how do we practice detachment? Thank you, Janvi, for asking this question. How do we practice detachment? Detachment can be practiced by knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge about who we are. Detachment means you use things that you have in life, but you don't think yourself to be the owner of those things. So you understand those things have been given to you. It can be things, it can be people and relationships. So those things or those people have been given to you, and when the time comes, they will be taken away from you. Understanding this, we should know that we don't own those things or we don't own those people. That will bring detachment in us. We'll, we'll deal with those things, we'll deal with those personalities, we'll have those relationships, but will not become attached to them. We'll know that they have come, but they will pass by, they'll go away. That's what the law is, that's what the rule is. So either they will go away or we will go away. Time will bring that separation. So knowledge of soul and knowledge of we not being the owner, but Supreme Lord Krishna being the owner, brings in this quality of detachment. Thank you. Next, Ankita Yadavji. As a beginner, how do we start practicing the detachment? I'm a student, so how should I work without thinking of results? Because we need to have basic plan to proceed. So is planning a part of results? Thank you. I'm very happy you are asking such intelligent questions. So as a student, how can you apply the principle of detachment? It doesn't mean that we should not plan. We must plan. Even in chapter 6, Krishna, though he told Arjuna about detachment, Arjuna is asking Krishna, what if I don't become successful in the science of yoga that you are trying to teach me or teach people in general? So that's why any intelligent person would plan for the success. That must be done. So we should plan. As a student, you should plan, or as a professional, someone should also plan for his job or his business. But detachment means you plan, you work, you engage in your duties, but at the end, when you don't get the expected result, you don't get morose, you don't get sad, and you continue to do your duties. That's what it means to be detached from the results. It doesn't say be detached from your work, which means when you're working, you give your 100%. That 100% also includes planning for it. But then you don't become attached to the result, that this is what I must get out of it. If you get it, it's okay. If you don't get it, you should be okay, right? So we work, but we don't too much dream about the result, and we don't too much demand the result from Krishna or the Supreme Lord. We leave it in his hands. So we just do our part very honestly, very sincerely, giving our 100%. That's called detachment. Next, Vyasani, Prabhuji's soul is Satchidananda. How the body's suffering affects the soul? I'll give an example to explain this. Actually, the soul cannot suffer because the body is actually the uh, one that goes through the experiences, right? Soul is full of ananda. However, because the soul identifies itself with the body, is attached to the body, so the suffering of the body is accepted by the soul as its own suffering. Like, like for example, if you own a car, that car is not you. You are different from the car. But if someone breaks the window of that car, the glass shield of that car, or someone hits that car and puts a dent on it, will you not feel sad? Yes, you will, because you think that the car belongs to you. You own the car, it's your car. So that mentality, it's my car, that leads to attachment to the car. So if the car goes through an accident, you feel sad. You may see so many cars going through an accident, but you'll not feel so sad. But when you see your car going through an accident, you will feel very sad because you're attached to that car. Similarly, the soul is unaffected. But when the soul becomes attached to the body and starts identifying that this is me, that's where the soul then starts feeling the happiness or the suffering of the body. So, what is this link called? That's called ego. That's what makes us attached to the body. Thank you. Next, Seemaji. How to forgive someone in such situations when that person has hurt it very badly, where it's very difficult to forgive? Thank you. Nice question. How to forgive people when they have hurt us very badly? It's difficult. And you cannot do it if you are not a very strong hearted person. Also, if you are too emotional, you cannot do it. So, to be able to forgive anyone, first of all, we need to be ourselves very, very stable in our emotions, in our mind. And that's possible if we practice spirituality or Krishna consciousness. That stability comes by practicing bhakti. Second thing, we should also forgive others because we know that whatever happens in our life, it's not just that person who is responsible for it. Somehow or other, I am also responsible for it. I have also contributed to it. I might not remember about it. That's a different thing. But without me being involved in it, I cannot get any such experience in life. Understanding that, we can also begin to forgive that person, that that person was just an instrument. Let's not look at the instrument. Let's look at the actual cause. What is the cause of that incident? My own bad actions in the past, which I have forgotten. That person just brought me something which actually belonged to me. He only or she only delivered it to me. So I should not then hate that person for that. So you can forgive in that manner to that person. Next question. What is the purpose of taking birth, Vinayakji? The purpose of taking birth is to learn the most important lessons of life which Krishna is teaching in Bhagavad Gita. That's the purpose of taking birth. To learn from Lord Krishna how to become pure in heart, pure in consciousness, pure in purpose, pure in desires, pure in thoughts. If we live such a pure life, we will be personally completely happy, and anyone who comes in our contact will also become completely happy. So that's the purpose of life, is to learn this lesson. Therefore, life is said to be a school or a university where we are put in to learn these important lessons. That's why we have taken birth, to learn these lessons. Next question. Swagatika, how to acknowledge that we are the soul when we forget sometimes? You just remind yourself again and again every single day. Just tell yourself, like when you go in front of the mirror and watch ourselves, we don't you think people, they tell themselves what they are? Like for example, if someone is a very beautiful girl, when she is sitting in front of the mirror, she is telling herself again and again that, you see, you're so beautiful, I am so beautiful, I look so pretty, my hairs are so nice. So what she is doing is that by doing those affirmations of who she is kind of cementing that mentality. Similarly, we have to remind ourselves every day. Lord Krishna told in Bhagavad Gita, I am not this body, I am spirit soul. So who am I? I am spirit soul, I am spirit soul, I am spirit soul. In that way, you remind yourself. That's the way to acknowledge. Next. I lost 15 first minutes by late joining. Will cover up by listening recording. Okay, that's a comment. All right, no problem. Please do that. Next. Hare Krishna, sir. How we would understand that the work we are doing is correct and it is our dharma and God wants us to do the karma? Sudeshnaji. Thank you for the good question. Our work, our activities should be those which are allowed by the scriptures. The things which scriptures allow, they are known as prescribed duties, which means this can be done. So if the scriptures, they say this is good, it can be done, we should do. If the scriptures, they say no, it's not good, should not be done, we should not do. So for that purpose, we need to study the scriptures. Like if you are living in a country, you need to know the laws of that country. What are those things that the country allows you to do, and what those things that country doesn't allow you to do. When you do know those laws, you follow those laws, and then you are able to live happily. Similarly, when we are born in this world, we need to know the laws that God made for this world to function, and those laws are given in the scriptures. We study the scriptures, understand those laws, and act accordingly. That's how we understand what our karma is. Sometimes jealousy comes unintentionally. How to manage that? Because everything belongs to Krishna. Thank you. We become jealous because we are not happy. So when we see someone more happy than us, we're like, oh, why that person is more happy? I wish I can be more happy. So when we will become happy fully by practicing spiritual principles in life, then naturally envy or jealousy will go away, because you will already have what the other person has. Now, because we think we don't have what the other person has, we become miserable and jealous. But when you are so happy, so happy, so happy that you cannot have more happiness than that, then you'll not be jealous of anyone. Next, Varshaji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you please ping the name of the playlist where you have explained all the shlokas in that? I searched, but I couldn't find it. Okay, so you just go to my channel with my name Madhusudan Vishnu Das on YouTube, and there are so many playlists. So you find the playlist where it's given Gita, complete Gita lectures, or it's with the name Gita Shastri. In Hindi, it's called Sampoon Bhagavad Gita, and you'll get those lectures. Thank you. Dorothy, in today's world, where will we find someone like Krishna to guide us through our life's journey? You may not get Krishna right in front of you, guiding you like he did for Arjuna, but you can find people who are representatives of Lord Krishna. Those personalities are technically called gurus or spiritual teachers. And they, being representatives of Krishna, can guide us the way Lord Krishna guided Arjuna. So we need to pray for such help to come in our life. And definitely that kind of help will come to our life then. So try to find out such people. And characteristics of such people are already mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So you pray to the Lord to help you in that direction. How to increase spiritual progress? By every day engaging in spiritual activities. You must engage in some sadhana every day. Like if you are trying to build muscles, so you go to gym on regular basis. Similarly, if you want to build spiritual muscles, you want to become spiritually strong, then you need to go to the gym for the mind, for the intelligence, and for the soul. That is called temple, or that is the place where devotees of Lord Krishna assemble. And in that association, we need to engage in spiritual activities like chanting Krishna's holy names, taking darshan of the deity of Krishna, serving the deity, honoring prasadam, engaging in bhajan and kirtan, listening to discourses on spirituality, so many other activities. By engaging in those activities, we make spiritual progress. Thank you. Dr. Asmita ji, if anyone want to follow that, not be disturbed with any situation, but if anyone insults Sri Krishna in front of us, that time how should we react towards that? If someone insults the Supreme Lord in front of us, you can do three things. One thing is, if you cannot help that person understand why that person is wrong, then you just leave that place. And if you are intelligent enough to help that person understand how he or she is wrong, then you explain to that person in a very nice manner. And if that person doesn't understand, then again you have nothing else to do, so you leave from that place. And the third thing, which we cannot generally do in our times, is, it says that if you hear insult about someone who is right, let's say about the Supreme Lord, who is the most correct person, or about your teachers, then you should drown in the river Ganga, or you should drown in any river. It means to say it's so bad to hear the insult. It's better to die than to hear insult of such people. So the meaning is you leave from that place. Don't hear it more. Or otherwise, you explain to that person how that person is wrong. Next question. Does Arjuna fight as a matter of duty or due to his nature of Kshatriya? Very good question. So he fights as a matter of duty. That's what he does. As a Kshatriya, he could have fought in any way. But actually, he fights on the battlefield of Kurukshetra for some other reasons. The first reason that Krishna is asking him to fight for is out of duty. But then in the later chapters, we'll come to know he'll give him many other reasons why he should fight. And then he'll give him the highest reason why he should fight. Arjuna fights for that reason. Okay, last question. Oh, two more questions to go. What is the aim of life, Navneet ji? As per the scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, the aim of life is to understand three things completely. Understand yourself, that you are spirit soul. Understand the source of yourself, the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna. Understand your relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. And also understand this world which is around you. If you know all this, then your life is perfect. Finally, Deepika Shetty. Krishna told 4 legs of Dharma, no meat eating. Okay, if my husband is eating non-veg, I do my duty. Yes, you continue to do your duty because you are in a situation like that. So definitely you can also help your husband come out of that habit. But then there's a way to do it. Instead of running away from that duty or responsibility or breaking that relationship, you continue to execute your duties and also help your husband by different ways to come out of that habit of eating non-vegetarian food. And an easy way of doing is that you prepare very delicious food which is vegetarian. You offer it to Lord Krishna out of devotion and love. Pray to Lord Krishna that this food, when eaten by yourself, by your husband, and people other than you and your husband, be benefited and the consciousness becomes purified. So if you feed anyone who is a non-vegetarian, Krishna Prasadam, that person will become affected by it and will slowly, slowly give up one's bad habits. All right, thank you so much for the wonderful questions you had to ask us. We end over here. Thank you. Thank you once again. See you next week now on Friday. I am very happy and grateful for your wonderful participation in these sessions. Enjoy seeing you being with me on this journey of studying Bhagavad Gita. So we have completed so far up to chapter 2, and chapter 3, 4, and 5 will be in the next weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6 p.m. India time. I wish till then all of you a wonderful week ahead. Hare Krishna. Take care. Thank you so much.